All right, so let's continue from where we stopped last time. We started with the introduction to web development. We talked about front end development. We talked about the back end briefly, and from there we moved to the VS Code, which is the editor that we're going to be using to type our code and to run the code that we'll be typing in there soon. And after that, we talked about how you can work with projects in VS. We talked about how you can work with projects in VS Code. And after that, we talked about the files that we're going to be starting with, which is the HTML file. Apart from that, we talked about the CSS and the JavaScript file. But today, we're going to be talking about the HTML in general. So the page or the site that you want to build, you need to generate the element. For example, like this. Now, this is YouTube, where I used to upload all my videos for the training. And as you can see, there are different elements on this page. So there are different elements on this page that is being generated through HTML there. So how do you to generate this kind of element? We have this input element where you can type something. We have the text element. We have this checkbox. So this one here is known as checkbox. But how do you create it? We're going to see how to create this kind of element later on. Look at my profile here. It's showing the image. There is a YouTube logo at the top here, and there's link here because I can click on any one of them and it's going to take me to a different page. So how do you two do something like this? We need our HTML, and inside your HTML file, this is where you are going to generate the content that you want to display to the user. So inside the HTML file, that's where you are going to generate the content that you want to display to the user. But when you want to generate the content, we don't just type any of the content anyhow like that. You need to use something known as tag. So when you are dealing with HTML, you need to know about tag, because tag is what you are going to use to generate different elements on the page. So you want text, there is a tag for that to generate a text. So you want button, there is a tag for that to generate the button. You can think of tag as the instruction or the language that you are going to be using, or the instruction from the language to speak to the browser what to display to the user. How do you talk to the browser to generate this type of box where the user can type? You are going to use a tag. How do you talk to the user? How do you talk to the browser to generate a button and it's going to have icon inside it? You are going to use tag. So in your HTML file, what you'll be generating there is a tag, and along with the content that you want to showcase to the user there. And when you are working with the HTML file, we have the structure that you need to follow. You don't just type the tags too anyhow. There's a structure that you need to have anytime you are working on any HTML page. So we have tag, and apart from tag, we have structure, because everything in HTML is all about tag and structuring of your content. So when you want to build any page, there's some structure you need to have first. And luckily for us, with VS Code, we can generate this structure easily by just pressing a shortcut here. And one of the shortcuts that you can use to generate the page structure is by using Shift and 1 on your keyboard, which is going to bring out exclamation mark. And as you can see, once you type it, it's going to bring out these two options. But the first one is what you need. Just click on it, and as you can see here, it's going to generate a page structure for us. Anytime you are building any HTML page or any HTML there, or anytime you are working on a web page, you will always have this minimal structure there. And this minimal structure is something that you always type every time. For each HTML page, you are always going to have this structure. But you don't want to be typing it yourself every time. So that's where this shortcut comes in VS Code. So to bring the structure for the page, you can just hold down the shift key on your keyboard, followed by 1, which is the 1 on your keyboard too, which is going to generate this exclamation mark. But some keyboard might actually put exclamation mark to another button, so you need to know where the exclamation mark is on your keyboard. But generally, almost all the keyboard, you have to press shift, or you have to hold down shift and you press 1, and it's going to generate this exclamation. And once you type exclamation, VS Code will present you these two options here. The one you need is the first one, and this first option is going to generate the page structure for us. So for every web page or for every website that you are seeing online, they have this minimal structure, and I'm going to explain what each one of them is doing there. But this is how to generate a page there. So when you want to work on another page, for example like this login now, in case you want to work on it, the next thing you do is just to hold down your shift key, followed by the exclamation mark, press enter, and as you can see, it will generate the page structure for that particular HTML file. And that's not the only way you can do it. We still have another way by typing doc. So once you type this doc too and you press enter, as you can see, we are going to have the same thing like this. Or instead of you using doc, you can actually type HTML2 and you click on this HTML5, you see that it will still give you the same thing. So you can generate the page structure in different way in VS Code. This is one of the advantage of using editor that is meant for coding, because they come with all these goodies that you can use to generate your code. It's not every time that you type everything. They are going to suggest whatever you want to type based on the letter or based on some character that you type in your editor there. So to generate the page structure, what do? You either use this exclamation mark like this, or you type doc, or you type HTML and you pick this HTML5. It's going to generate the structure of the page for us. So every HTML that we're going to work on, we always have this. Every HTML you are going to work on, we always have this. But what is all this thing that we have on this page? What is all this thing that we have on this page? So everything you are seeing here is what we refer to as a tag. So this is one tag on its own, this is another tag, this is another tag, and so forth like that. But when you are talking about tag, it comes in different variants. So when you are talking about tag, it comes with these major 3 variants. So we have all the tag that behave like this, that's in this form, as you can see here, for this body, for this HTML, and so forth like that. So you can see your tag in this way. And when you see any tag in this way, they are referred to as opening tag. Any tag that is in this way, they are referred to as opening tag. So that's what we call it. Any tag you see like this, they are referred to as opening tag. So this one now is known as opening tag. So any tag that you see the less than symbol, the text that is there, and it's closed like this, it is referred to as opening tag. But apart from this type of tag, we have other one too, which is known as closing tag. Look at this one. As you can see, there is a slash there. Any one of them that have slash, they are referred to as closing tag. So like this one now is closing tag. Let me reduce this my mark. It's too big. So any of the tag that you see that is having this slash there before the text, they are referred to as closing tag. So this is closing tag. This is, let me use another color so that we can differentiate them. They're like that. So let me use blue for this one. So this is closing tag and this is closing tag here. So any tag that you see in this form, they are referred to as closing tag. All of them, they are tag, but it comes in different variants. So we have opening tag and we have closing tag. So closing tag. So and for every opening tag, you're always going to have a closing tag. Anywhere you see opening somewhere, there is always a corresponding closing tag. So this is the opening of the head and this is the corresponding closing of the head tag. If you look at this down one too, here you see this is the opening of the body. So this is the opening of the body and this is the closing of the body tag. I'm going to explain what each one of the tag are doing there, but these are different ways of representing tag. So we have the opening tag, which are always in this form. We have the closing tag, which are always in this format here. So opening tag, you always see them in this format. Closing tag, you always see them in this format. Please don't mix them up, because when you are opening tag, you should have a corresponding closing tag. And luckily for us, with our editor, anytime you have opening tag, it's going to close it for you if you are using the editor correctly. But if you want to do it yourself, you can still do it, but the editor is going to help you out. Once you open the opening tag, it is going to close it for you automatically. But for every opening tag, there is always a corresponding closing tag. So this is the opening one for the head, and this is the closing one for the head. The same thing for the body too. This is the opening for the body, and this is the closing for the body. They are always in pair. So this is the closing for the HTML, and this is the opening for the HTML. As you can see the way they are. So they are always in pair. Opening, close, and so forth like that. And whatever content you want your tag to display on the screen, then it's going to be in between the opening and the closing tag. As you can see, the HTML, it have the head and the body inside it, and the same thing too inside the head. As you can see, we have some content under it. So these are the content that is inside the head. Again, inside the body, this is where we are going to be spending most of our time later on. Whatever content you want to display to the user, they are always going to be inside the body. So the head is where we use to supply extra information to the browser. So we use head to supply extra information to the browser. But the actual stuff that you want to display to the user, they are going to be inside the body here. So this is where the content lives. So this is where the content lives. So whatever content you want to display to the user, they should always be inside the body. Here, we will not be spending most of our time like that. This is where we are going to be spending our time there like that. So this is how to create a web page. So when you are creating a web page, what you are doing is that you are creating HTML file, and inside the HTML file, you are generating the content along with the structure that you want to display on the screen there. So you are going to generate the structure, and inside the body tag, you are going to put all the content you want to display to the user. So everything you are seeing here that is displayed on this YouTube site, everything is inside the body. All this button, the text, clicking on it, and whatever you want to do, everything is inside the body. But how do you generate this type of content? So how do you put the color and so forth like that? That's what we are going to focus on as from this class on there like that. But when you are working, the first thing you do is to generate the page. And to generate the page, you create HTML file. And once you are done generating the page, the next thing is that you put the content that you want to display to the user there. And how do you generate the content? The first thing you do is to generate the structure of the page. To generate the structure of the page, you use exclamation mark, or you type doc, or what do? You type HTML and you click on HTML5, and as you can see here, it's going to generate the page structure for us. And this page structure, there we have this header section, which is where we supply extra information to the user. I will come back to it later on. But where we are going to be spending our time is this body. So inside the body, this is where you place the content that you want to show to the user. For example, here I can just type welcome to web development class like this. But this is not the way we are going to be typing it. For now, this is what I want to show to the user. But now that I have typed the content, how do I see it on the browser? We've typed the content, we've generated the HTML page, but how do we see the results on the browser? So in order for you to see the result on the browser, we need to send this HTML to the browser. You need to open it with your browser. But again here, we want to make some changes to this stuff here, because when you are developing a site, there is always going to be a rapid change. You'll be making changes, and the changes that you are making there, you always want to see it update there on the browser. So whatever changes you are making from your VS Code, you always want to see it on the browser instantly. You don't want to go to the browser to reload the page before you can see the changes and so forth like that. So that's where extension comes in VS Code. So we have an extension that we can use to connect our web page that we have on VS Code to the browser. And anytime we make changes to the code in VS Code, we are going to see the changes on the browser instantly. You don't need to go to the browser to reload the page before you can see your changes. You are going to see the changes instantly. I mean, on my VS Code here, I've already installed this extension, and the extension is known as Live Server. So once you install the extension, which is something we are going to do later on together, right clicking on the file, you are going to see the option to open with Live Server. And what is this Live Server extension doing? What it's going to do is that it's going to create a fake server, or it's going to create a fake connection between VS Code, this file that we're working on, and the browser where we want to see the results. Because whatever result of the design you are doing is only the browser that can display it for you the way you want it to be. Because the YouTube you are seeing right now, I'm checking it out on the browser. So the result of the page that we are building right there too, we want to see it on the browser. And in order for you to see it on the browser, you need to open this HTML file directly. You can do it without extension. What you just need to do is to go to where you have the file and you double click on it. It will open it for you in the browser. As you can see, it will see it. Yeah, let me bring it stuff here. So once you go to where you have all the file, just double click on it, and once you double click on the stuff, you see that it will open it for you on the browser. But this one is bad. Why is this one bad? The reason why it is bad is that if I make changes to my code, you are not going to see it at all. For example, here now we have this welcome to web development class like this, and I just type your instructor will be Rasta like this. So save. Can you see the changes is not showing on the browser? In order for you to see the changes, you have to go to the browser manually yourself and press this reload before you can see the changes that is coming in. And right now I'm even loading the sign up, so it will not even show it at all. So let me cut it out because we are working on the index, not sign up. So let me cut it out. Let me go back to the file. We are supposed to open index. So yeah, so welcome to development class. This is the index file that I'm currently working on. And now let me make the changes again. So let me make the changes again. Save. Can you see the changes is not showing? In order for me to see the changes, I need to come back to the browser here and press reload, or you open the file again. That's where you are going to see the changes. But when you are developing site, this time you are using to come here to reload the page is waste of time. You don't want to be doing this thing yourself. You want the browser and the VS Code to be connected to each other. So anytime I make changes from my VS Code, the browser will pick it up and it will display the result instantly for me. So how do we do that? So in order for you to have that kind of a feature, we have extension in VS Code. And with VS Code, you can extend it by using this extension. It makes it easier for you to add more functionality to your VS Code. So it will make it to do some extra work that are not part of VS Code that you install. Some of the stuff you can do here, you are going to see them by the time we start installing it. But the first one that we need is known as Live Server, and we use this to connect our HTML file to the browser. And anytime we make changes to your code, it's going to reload the browser for us automatically there. And as you can see, I have a lot of extensions installed already. Like this for my training, I have 35 extensions installed. But for your own side here, you see that your extension is 0. Here I have 35, but we are going to be, you are not going to have it at all there. But later on, you are going to install some extension that you need when you are working on assignment on some other practice that I will be giving you there like that. So how do we use this thing? Just right click on the file that you want to load with Live Server, and you click on this open with Live Server, or which is something I always be using. Look at the down part here on my browser on this VS Code. I have this Go Live. So this Go Live is the same thing, and what this one is to do is that any file you have open Once you click on this go live, it will connect the file to the browser, and once it connects it, as you can see, it will open the browser automatically. And with this one now, any changes that we made to this our HTML file, you are going to see it on the browser instantly. You don't need to go to the browser to reload. For example, here now, let me just delete everything and type something else, and you see that we're going to have the update once I save the code. So testing, so let me just type testing live server like this. So save, and once this is saved and get to the browser, can you see I did not come here to load anything. It will reload the browser automatically. So after this dot, let me just paste the stuff again and save, and as you can see, it's reloading the browser and we are getting the update code on the browser there. So you don't want to be coming to the browser to reload the page yourself. You want the VS Code to be connected to the browser, and anytime there is a changes to your code, you want that changes to appear instantly, not that you have to come here and reload the page to see the changes there like that. So when you are working, live server is really useful when you are starting with your normal HTML, CSS and JavaScript in VS Code, which allows us to connect VS Code to the browser. So if I make any changes to the code here, you always see that changes on the page instantly like that. Let me disable this AI. I don't want it to be doing suggestion for me. So this thing make it easier for us to see the changes instantly without reloading the page. What is the live server is doing there is that anytime you save your code, it will go to the browser and reload it for you automatically. Not that you be the one that will come here to reload the page and see the changes. Because when you are dealing with CSS later on, there's a lot of changes you are going to be doing within seconds. There's a lot of changes you are going to be doing within some few seconds, and you don't want to be moving from the browser to the VS Code anytime you are doing all these changes. It's just going to be a waste of time, and that's the reason why we have live server here to connect our VS Code to the browser. And as you can see, another thing happen here. Look at it. Look at all the space that I have right now, and let me press Ctrl S. Can you see the space close here? I'm not the one that closed that space. It is VS Code, another extension here, that is doing the magic. Anytime you have unnecessary space in your code, it's going to close all of them and make sure that your code is arranged properly. There's another extension that is doing this, and we're going to do all the setup for them after the class there like that. But the major thing here is that you have a web page. A web page is a file, which is the HTML file, along with the content that you want to display to the user on the screen. And what are the content you want to display to the user? That's what you are going to be putting inside this body by using tag to generate different elements. So you are going to be using tag to generate different elements. Please, what you are seeing on the screen is what we call elements. So what you are seeing on the screen is what we call elements. But what are you using to generate that element? That's what we call the tag. The code you are typing is the tag. But what are you seeing on the screen is the element. So everything you are seeing on this YouTube, we revert to them as element. So whether it is button, it is image, it is text, it is link, and everything that you are seeing here, they are referred to as element. And what are you going to use to generate element? You will be using tag to generate element. For example, here now, when you want to generate text, we have different tags that you can use to generate different text. We have something referred to as heading text. And heading text start from this H1 all the way to H6. So when you want to generate a bold text that is really big, you can use this tag to generate that element. So we have H1 tag, and as you can see what happened now, what did I do? I just type H1, then after pressing enter, can you see that it's generating the opening and the closing tag for me? This is VS Code working for us. So there's an extension built in into VS Code, which is known as this melt. So there's an melt, which is like autocomplete feature in VS Code. Anytime you type something that is related to HTML file, it's going to bring suggestion for you, and once you press enter on one of the suggestion, it's going to complete it for you automatically. But that doesn't mean you cannot type it yourself too. If you want, you can type it, but it's still going to complete it for you. So I type the opening tag of H1, and as you can see, it closes the H1 for me. And in between the tag, that's where you are going to put the content that you want this thing to affect. Because any tag that have opening and closing tag, you always put the content in between it, not outside of it. Whatever you put outside of the tag, they won't affect it. They will only affect what is inside the tag. And what do I mean by inside? Inside is anywhere in between the opening and the closing. Anywhere in between is what we call inside the tag. So later on, when I said you should generate the tag and you put something inside it, what I'm saying is that whatever you want to put there should be in between the opening and the closing of that tag that you are going to be using to generate the content later on. And this H1 here is what we can use to generate heading text. So that is really big. So for example here, I have this welcome to web development. So web development like this, using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React here. So save it. You see that the way the text will be displayed on the screen is now different from the way it is before. Why? Because now we are using a tag, and the tag will instruct the browser on what to do. This is what we type, but after getting to the screen, as you can see, is displaying it in a different way. Why? Because this tag, anytime you use it, is going to make your text to be bold like this, and at the same time is going to make it to be bigger compared to you typing the text alone. You don't just type anything anyhow, you always use a tag. So if I just do the same thing here by just saying welcome like this, so let me just copy the same text and just type it without putting it in a tag. You see that the way it's displaying out is quite different. So save, and as you can see here, the same text, but the way it's showing here is quite different from the way it's showing here. So the tag is what you are going to use to instruct the browser what to do. And we have different, or we have dozens of tags that you can use, and we are going to be talking about each one of them in this our HTML. That's what the HTML is all about. We are going to be talking about different tags that you can use to generate different elements on the screen. That's what we're going to be focusing on in the HTML. And from the CSS part, we now be talking about how we can style all those elements that we generated through our tags. But don't forget, when you are talking about tags, we have opening tag, which is this H1 here, and we have the closing tag, which is the H1 here. So how do you recognize closing tag? They always start with this the less than symbol. Inside it, you are going to have the name of the element that you want to generate, or the tag name. So the tag name here is H1, and this entire stuff here is what we call opening tag. So for this body here, this is the tag name. The tag name is body, but this entire stuff here is opening tag of the body. So here, this is the tag name, but this is the entire stuff for the closing tag of body. So as you open, you close, but not all of them that you can open and close. We have some that they are not closing, they are referred to as self-closing tag, and that's the reason why you are seeing this one here like this. Look at this meta here. So any tag that is behaving like this, they are referred to as self-closing tag. So this is self-closing tag here. So this is self-closing tag here. So this one you have at the top here, which is this body here, this is our opening tag, and for this one that we have down here, this is our closing tag. So look at them, they have different pattern. So when you are talking about opening tag, this is how it looks like. So all the opening tag looks like this. All the opening tags looks like this. So this is referred to as opening tag. This is the pattern. You see the less than, the name of the tag you want to use will be in between less than and greater than symbol. When you are talking about closing tag, before the name of the tag, you are going to see the slash. So when you have the less than, then it's followed by slash, then followed by the text, which is the tag name. This is what we call closing tag. Because later on, I won't be explaining what is closing tag and what is opening tag. I will just say open your tag or create this element using this particular tag, and you know that this particular tag is going to have open and closing, but not all the tag that follow this pattern. Some of them follow the pattern that I have up here, which is known as self-closing tag. So how do you recognize self-closing tag? All the self-closing tag, look at where the slash is. They are always at the front. So all the self-closing tag, they are always at the front. So the tag is always going to be at the front before the greater than symbol. So when it is closing tag, it's always come before the text. But when it is self-closing tag, you see that the slash always come after. So the slash always come after. But when you are talking about the closing tag, it always come before the text. Self-closing tag, it always come after. You are going to see a lot of this self-closing tag later on, but this is one of them. Yeah. And this is how all the opening tag used to behave, and this is how all the closing tag used to behave. And for every closing tag, there is always a corresponding opening tag, and for every opening tag, there is always a corresponding closing tag. You must not mix them. So when you have opening tag, you must close it somewhere. When you have closing, you must open it somewhere. So if you have closing, it means you open the body somewhere. Since we close the body here, it means we've already opened the body somewhere before that line. Again, since we close HTML here, it means somewhere at the top we open the HTML. But when you are talking about self-closing, those ones, they don't have closing tag. They close itself, like the tag is always closing itself. And how do you recognize them? They are always having this slash before the end. Yeah. So they are always having the slash before the end. It's different from this, that the slash will come before the text. When the slash is coming before the text, it is known as closing tag. But when the text is coming after, so it is known as the self-closing tag. And we have a lot of self-closing tag we are going to be talking about later on. One of them is this impute. One of them is this impute. Can you see? Yeah. So let me save it. Can you see? It's closing itself. Nothing like opening, nothing like closing. It's open and it's closed instantly. And once I save it down, you see that it will generate something for us on the screen. So tag is what you'll be using to generate element. And what are we using here? We are using this impute to generate this element. But I won't be talking more about impute. We're going to be doing that in the coming classes there. But for now, we are focusing on the text and what is tag. So tag is very important, because whatever you want to do or whatever you want to generate on the page or whatever you want to display to the user, you need to use appropriate tag to generate the content. And we have different tags that you can use based on the type of the content you want to generate. So if you want to generate text, we can use this H1 all the way to H6. So we have different heading text. So the H here is referred to as heading, while the number in front of it is referred to the level of the heading. So since we have H1 there, that is the level 1. So if I use H2, this is going to be heading level 2. And again, we can continue like that for H3, which is going to be heading level 3. And for H4, this is going to be heading level 4. And apart from this, we have H5 and H6. So we have 6 levels of heading. So we have this heading level 5. And lastly, we have H6. And each one of them will look the same. The difference is just the size. That's what is there. So we have different 6 levels of heading. Can you see them? So the first one is heading level 1. So it's bigger than H2. H2 too is bigger than H3. H3 is bigger than H4. H4 is bigger than H5. And H5 is bigger than H6. But you might be thinking, where can you use all these things? If you go to different sites, you see that there are different type of level. Can you see? This is the heading level. Can you see? This is H1 being used here. But if you look at this heading, you see that this is another heading here too. But this heading here is quite smaller compared to what YouTube is using here. So this one is big, so we can think of this one as H1. While this one is small, we can think of this one like H3 or H4, depending on what YouTube is using, because you can actually use CSS to change them anyhow. So you can use your H1 all the way to H6 to generate different type of heading text. So this is one H, this is another H, this is another H. All of them, they are always bold. This is another H, this is another H, like that. Where do we have H again? This is another H, and so forth like that. So you can use different heading text to generate all this text out. So anywhere you need a text to be bold and it's going to be big, what you use is your H1 all the way to H6, depending on the level of the heading. If the heading is the biggest, then you use H1. For example, now I can inspect the code that the YouTube is using to generate this text here. And once you check the code, you see that they are actually using something. Can you see what they are using? Can you see what they are using? So let me increase this thing. Can you see what they are using? H1. Because anytime you want to generate any text and that text is bold and is big, what you use is this H1 or H2 or H3 or H4 or H5 or H6, depending on the level or how big is that heading. So if I inspect this channel 2, can you see what they are using? They are using H2 because this one is not big like this text here. This channel analytics is not big like this one, and that's the reason why they are using H2. And you are going to see different heading on this page depending on what is going on there. So let me check this one too. They are not using heading for this. They are using another element for that. But let me check another element on this screen. So look at this one. This one too is H2. So let me look at this idea. As you can see, this one too is H2. So you can use any of the heading text to generate different levels of text for the heading. They are meant for heading, not normal text. When you want to generate heading, what you use is your H1 all the way to H6, depending on the level of the heading that you want to generate. But what if you want to generate normal text? We are not generating heading right now. We want to generate heading text. So in HTML, we revert normal text as paragraph. In HTML, normal text are referred to as paragraph. And in order for you to generate them, we have p tag. As you can see, the name of all these tags, they are coming from what they are doing. So for paragraph, we have the p tag. For heading level 1 to heading level 6, we have H1 to H6. And inside this p now, we can put whatever text that we want to display on the screen as normal paragraph. And here, I will not be typing all the text from my head again. I'll be using another features that we have in VS Code. This one allows you to generate some random text. So, and how do you generate random text? In VS Code, you can use this lorem. And once you press enter, as you can see, it will generate some dummy text for us that we can use, because I can't be typing text from my head. So I need to use some placeholder for it. So, and VS Code come with these lorem features that we can use. Once you type lorem, by default, it will generate 25 dummy words. But if you want to generate a particular word, just type the number of words you want in front of it and press enter. As you can see, it will generate 3 words because I put 3. If I put 30 there, it will generate 30 dummy words for me as value for this paragraph. And as you can see my code too, you see that everything is going to next line. From your own side, it will not be like that. There is some extension you need to install first before you start having this feature at your end. So let me save the code and check again on the browser. Can you see the way the text is showing compared to the heading we have? And I can use the same text too with another tag, and you see that it will come in a different way. For example, if I use H1 now with the same text and save it, as you can see here, the way it's displaying is quite different because we are using a separate tag. So the tag is very important. Tag is very important because the tag you are using will determine how the content is going to display on the screen to the user. And you need to use correct tag for each one of the data that you want to work with. So if you are dealing with text, if the text is heading, what you use your H1 to H6 depending on the level of the heading. But if the text that you want to work with is just normal text, what you use for now is just paragraph. There is some other tag that we can use, but for now, what you always use is paragraph. So when you want to display a normal text on the screen, what you use is what? Paragraph. And inside that p tag, that's where you are going to put the stuff. There, like that. So anything like this, you can use paragraph from them. Any normal text like this, you always use paragraph to represent them. So they are referred to as paragraph. So when you want to display them on the page to user, you always use p tag. So p tag is what you use to display a text to the user. So here now I want to display another text. So just paste the text and save. You see that the text is going to come out in a normal face there. So when you want to generate heading text, what do you use? You are going to use H1 to H6. And when you want to generate normal text, you are going to use the p tag. So these are the main tag that you are going to be using to work with text. But apart from this tag, we have some other tags that you can use for formatting. So let me put this one. We have some formatting tag. So we have some text formatting tags. So we have some text formatting tags. And what are these tags? They can help you to format your text. Some of them here is the making your text to be in italics. So what if you want to make your text to be in italics? What do we refer to as italics? They are text that are bent or in a slant form. So how do you make your text to be in a slant form? We can use all these other tags that I want to talk about now. So what if you want part of your text of your paragraph to be bold? You can use another tag to make your text to be bold. By default, all H1 to A6, they are always bold. That's why you see that the text are thick. But if you look at the paragraph, it's not bold. But what if you want to make part of the text to be bold too? So what do? We can use all these formatting tags to do all these things. Or what if you want to make your text to be in italics? Or what if you want to underline your text and so forth like that? So we can use all these tags to make this thing to happen. So if you want to underline, there is a tag you need to use on your text to make this thing possible. So let me save and we start using each one of them, starting from bold. Let me start from the bold. So how do you make your text to be bold? How do you make part of your paragraph to be bold? For example, I have this lorem, and this lorem here, I want this first three or this first four word to be bold. How do I do it? So we need to put them in a tag that is going to make the text to be bold. So look at it. Currently the text is not bold at all. So this is the text. But what I want to do is that I want to bold this lorem ipsum here. So how do I turn it to a bold text? So what we need to do is to put this tag, the text here, into its own tag. And the tag that you can use to bold text are known as this B tag or the strong tag. So these are two tags that you can use to make a text to be bold. Whatever you put inside the B tag or whatever you put inside the strong tag, you are going to turn that text to a bold text. So here now, this lorem ipsum, I'm going to cut it out. Then I'm going to use the B tag. And in between the B tag, that's where I'm going to put the text. Look at it again. This is another tag on its own, B, which is what we use to bold. So the B is coming from bold. And whatever you put in between the B tag, they are going to turn that text to a bold text. This is what we have before I save it. As you can see, it's not bold at all. But once I save the code, can you see now? The text is now bold. It's still paragraph, but part of the paragraph, we are turning it to a bold text. So this is one of the formatting tag that we can use. So you can use B tag or you can use strong tag. It's still going to work. If I want to bold this last part too, I can actually use strong instead of B. So whether you use strong or you use B, is always going to bold the text that is in between the tag. Look at it too. Look at the way I did it. I have the tag, which is the opening tag, and I have the closing tag. Then in between it, I have the text that I want this thing to bold for me. And once I save it, as you can see, that's the only text that is going to be bold on the page. So that's the only text that is going to be bold on the page. So we have the B or the strong tag that we can use to make a text to be bold. What if you want to make a text to be in italic? So we have the tag for that too that you can use. So let me generate another lorem. So type in lorem again. You see that it will generate this dummy 25 words. But what can we use? Which tag can we use to generate italics? You can guess it here too. We have the I and we have the EM tag. So these are two tags that you can use to make a text to be bold, to make a text to be in italics. So instead of making this text to be bold, we can actually turn it to italic. So here we can use the I tag or EM. So don't forget, anytime you have opening and closing tag, whatever stuff you want that tag to do for you, you have to put it in between the opening and the closing, not outside of it, not before the tag or not after the closing tag. So it have to be in between the opening and the closing tag. And once this thing is saved, you see it on the page. Can you see the text is now in italics form? So you can use this I or you can use the em tag. Both of them are going to do the same thing. So the I is for italics, the em is for emphasis, which is the same thing as making your text to be in italics. And once this thing is saved, as you can see here, the text here too has been converted to italics here. And the only text you put in between the tags, those are the only one it's going to affect. It will not change anything outside of it. So this is how you can bold your text. And the other one that we have here again is this u tag. This one is only one. It doesn't have two tags to do it. So when you want to make your text to be underlined here, you can use the u tag. As you can see, all the tag, they are coming from the name of what they are doing. Underline u, italics I, bold B, paragraph key, heading level 1 H1, heading level 3 H3, and so forth like that. So they pick all these tags based on what they are doing, but not all of them that works like this. But almost all of them, their name is always close to what they are doing. So let me generate another paragraph, and here I will have lorem again. Save the code, and on the page we should have the text with no underline at all. So we have the text with no underline. But what if I want to underline the text? Then I can just put it inside the u tag. And whatever text you have in between the opening and the closing tag, it's going to add the line under the text. So these are some of the basic formatting that you can do on your text. These are the basic formatting that you can do on your text there like that. And this is where I'll be stopping from my side before you share your screen there, so that we can do the setup. And again, you do some practice too, and from there you are going to work on an assignment. I'll be sending the PDF file that I normally use that contain the notes, that contain my notes, and at the end of each of the notes I always have assignment. The assignment you'll be working on will be at the end of that note. So yeah, this is where I will stop from my end. So I want you to share your screen too, so that we can do all the necessary setup, like the extension, installation, and create the HTML file and test everything out there.